Karuna Ojanen, and I am with the Minnesota Well Owners Organization, and I'm here to talk to you today about what's in your water, primarily groundwater. Go ahead. What we have here is we all drink water, okay? And so we drink surface water or we drink groundwater. Here is a list of the cities that get their water from the surface water and the sources of them. And then here's the rest of us. We get our water from groundwater. About 4 million of us get it from groundwater. The Department of Natural Resources in Minnesota has decided that we have, primarily based on the geology, we have got 6 groundwater provinces. And you can see they're here, and right here is the Minnesota River Valley. And so you can see the differences there. And I wish you could read this. This is primarily based on the geology, the superficial geology right at the surface, the bedrocks, the sands. What we have here, of course, are the central sands. Up north, way up north, we have bedrock, some of the oldest rocks on the planet, you guys. This is pretty amazing. And then, of course, down here, the infamous karst region. And so we have a lot of clay here. Next slide. Go ahead. And as a result of the geology, we have the pollution sensitivity of our groundwater, our soils and our groundwater. And you can see here's the Minnesota River. And of course, the central sands and the karst are considered vulnerable groundwater areas. And you can see, according to the chart over there, that what you put on the soil can go into the groundwater that we're drinking in just a few hours or in a decade. And of course, if you're up north, it'll be a longer time. And then if you're down here in the karst or central sands, just a matter of a few hours. And then over here, even in the Minnesota River Valley, you guys, it's just days and weeks, months. So what you put on the soil ends up in your groundwater. So what is in the groundwater that's not so good for us? If you can slide up a little bit. So I hope you can read these. Of course, you have the sediment. And sediment affects a lot of the health, a lot of nature, natural creatures in the water, the fish. We have the nitrates. And in the next slide, you'll see it has some very serious health consequences. No, please go back. Then we have bacteria. And the source is usually from animal feces. We have lead. We have manganese. A naturally occurring one, both manganese and arsenic are naturally occurring, and they have some serious health consequences. And of course, the PFASs, which are in the news most recently, they're everywhere and they're forever. And if your parents had Teflon frying pans, chances are you have PFASs in your soil. I mean, in your body. And then, of course, the others. And it's interesting that there are a lot of cocaine in the water. And of course, our hormones, birth control pills, a lot of microplastics. We all have microplastics in our bodies. And so these are things that are in our water. And we talk about, several people talked about unintended consequences. Well, they're not unintended anymore. With all the science that has happened over the years, they are very intended consequences. Go ahead, next slide. So, there's a Safe Drinking Water Act, and bless MCEA's, the Minnesota Center of Environmental Advocacy, for using the Safe Drinking Water Act to protect Minnesota's water, at least in the karst region. And that regulates the public drinking water supplies. Can you slide up a little bit? But if you have a private well, no one's protecting you. And that's what we're all about. We are an advocacy and an education organization for private well owners. What we have done, Minnesota Well Owners Organization, is, no, go ahead, come back down. What we have done is we work with the Minnesota Groundwaters Association, some SWCDs, some Department of Health organizations, and we have gone around the state and we just do screenings for nitrates and chlorides. And we have people in our group that have, altogether, we've got more degrees than a thermometer. We've got PhDs, master's degrees, retired professors, chemistry professors, etc., who go around the state and we screen the water and we talk to private well owners about their water. And we have had, for instance, in Rochester, we had over 300 people, or 300 well samples. Up in St. Joseph in Stearns County, we've had over 300 well samples. People just bring in they're concerned about water. And groundwater is everywhere. It's life. Water is life. So, so please, take care of your water. The next few slides, and you can just sort of go by, is we talked about some of the nitrates. And if you look, these are the cities, the public water supplies of the cities that mostly get their water from groundwater, but there's some surface water where the nitrate levels are of 3 milligrams per liter and above. Well, the health safety limit is 10 milligrams per liter, and I think that's a little too high. I always get really confused whether, but you can go on, and you see there's 74 public water supplies where the nitrate levels are above 3 milligrams per liter. Now, the groundwater protection rules from the Minnesota Department of Agriculture says that if the nitrate levels get above a certain level in drinking water supply management areas, then they can put them on different mitigation levels. And there's 3 mitigation levels. And for the most part, what they do is until you get to level 3, they monitor you a lot more, is really what it is. At level 3, then they start making you implement procedures and processes to clean up your groundwater. Most of these, and go ahead, you can just scroll through these. I know you can't read this from the back, and I'm sorry. Not very many of these are really in the Minnesota Valley. But here, for instance, Darfur, they only do 87 people at this reading. Now it's a little bit more. Their nitrate levels were up to 9.7, which is way almost at the health safety limit. And just a year and a half or so ago, they had to get hooked up to a rural water supply area. A lot of these towns have had to hook up to rural water supply areas if they don't have water treatment facilities in their town. Go ahead and just see, you see 4 pages of them. And they're not all in the Minnesota River Valley. This is ubiquitous through Minnesota, y'all. And why nitrates more than 3 parts per million, which is 3 milligrams per liter. And maybe you can see this. Where there's more 3 parts per million, you also have a very strong correlation of pesticides. And then there have been a number of studies, and I think Dr. Jennings was involved in some of the studies in Dakota County. And so can you move up a little bit? As you go, you can see they're associated with pediatric cancers, thyroid cancers, breast cancers. So it's time that we really start taking a look at these intended consequences anymore. And then what are we going to do about it? can go to the next slide. First off, be aware of your own water supply. Where are you getting your water? If you're a private well owner or in a township, know the source of your groundwater. Know your well. Over here, we have a number of well portfolios. These well portfolios will contain information on possible pollutants, possible testing, and a lot more information on your well. When was it drilled? How will you find out the information of your well? Do you have casing? How deep does it go? And so, please, they're free. Just pick them up. And if you know anybody who has a private well, pick it up for them. When and if you're test your well, and there's a list of accredited laboratories in the well portfolios. Of also interest is, just this last week, I was here in Mankato talking about drainage and environmental assessment worksheets. We were in front of the county commissioners as the drainage authority, asking the county commissioners to do an environmental assessment worksheet on a drainage project. They declined to do so. And it was all done before we even got there. This next week, I'm going to St. James to ask for the same thing. To ask for, this is a 7,000 acre drainage project. And I'm going to go ask the county commissioners just to do an environmental assessment worksheet. I wouldn't be surprised if we're denied. So, talk to your county commissioners. Have these people who are in positions, your elected representatives, have them protect the environment. And it's not really the environment. Honestly, I don't even use the word environment anymore. Because after you look at those maps, the groundwater, this thing, this earth that we're living on, is a living entity. And we are just a small part of it. So we really have to take care of our water, we have to take care of our soil, we have to take care of our rocks, we have to take care of our trees. It is everywhere, and we're just a small part of it. And the consequences are no longer unintended.